The dust from her father's funeral still clung to Lily Foster's black dress when the banker arrived at the Double F Ranch to tell her she had 30 days to prove she could run the place. And as she stood on the porch watching him ride away in his fancy buggy, she knew every rancher in Gunnison, Colorado, would be placing bets on how fast she would fail. It was 1882, and the summer heat pressed down on the valley like a branding iron. Lily was 22 years old, had never been married, and according to every man in town, had no business trying to manage 3,000 acres of cattle land and a dozen ranch hands who had already started packing their belongings. Her father, George Foster, had built this ranch from nothing over 30 years, and now that he was gone, taken by a heart that finally gave out after too many hard winters, everyone expected her to sell to the highest bidder and move back east where women belonged. She walked back into the ranch house, her boots echoing on the wooden floors her mother had scrubbed clean every Saturday before the fever took her 10 years ago. The place felt emptier than it ever had, even though nothing had changed physically. The same worn furniture sat in the same spots. The same smell of leather and tobacco lingered in her father's study. But the weight of expectation pressed down on her shoulders like she was carrying the whole mountain range. Through the window, she could see the bunkhouse where the hands were gathering their things. Her foreman, old Pete Sullivan, had already told her that morning he was heading to Wyoming to work for his brother. The other men would follow. None of them believed a woman could run a ranch, no matter that she had been working alongside her father since she was tall enough to reach a saddle horn. Lily changed out of her funeral dress and into her work clothes, the canvas trousers and cotton shirt that scandalized the church ladies, but made actual sense when you were fixing fence lines and breaking horses. She braided her long brown hair and pinned it up under her hat, then headed out to the barn to take stock of what she was working with. The answer was not encouraging. 6 of her 12 hands were definitely leaving. That left her with green boys and drunks, basically, and Pete, who would be gone by week's end. She had 200 head of cattle that needed to be moved to higher pasture before the summer got too hot, and she had fence line that needed repair after the spring floods. The bank wanted proof she could manage the ranch, which meant she needed to show profit, which meant she needed to get those cattle to market in the fall, which meant she needed help. She was in the barn checking on a mare that was due to foal when she heard a horse approaching. Lily stepped out into the afternoon sun, her hand automatically going to the rifle she kept by the barn door. In Colorado territory, you did not take chances with strangers. The man riding toward her sat easy in his saddle, like he had been born there. He was tall, lean, with dark hair that needed cutting and a few days of stubble on his jaw. He wore typical cowboy gear, nothing fancy, and led a pack horse behind him. As he got closer, she could see he was young, maybe 25 or 26, with green eyes that took in everything about the ranch in one sweeping glance. "Help you," Lily called out, not moving from the barn door. The man touched his hat brim. "Heard in town you might be hiring." "Name is Wade Olson. I am looking for work." "Town also tell you I am a woman trying to run this place by herself." "It did." "And you rode all the way out here anyway." Wade Olson swung down from his horse with the kind of easy grace that spoke of years in the saddle. Up close, she could see the weathered quality to his face that came from outdoor work, and the way his hands rested easy, ready but not aggressive. Figured a woman running a ranch by herself would be desperate enough to pay fair wages and not ask too many questions about where a man comes from. It was honest, at least. Lily studied him, trying to get a raid. She had grown up around cowboys and ranch hands, and she knew the difference between men you could trust and men you could not. This one was harder to read than most. There was something quiet about him, something that suggested he had seen trouble but was not looking for more. "I can pay standard wages, food and bunk included," she said, "but I will be straight with you. Half my crew is leaving because they do not think I can run this place. The bank is breathing down my neck. I have 30 days to prove I can manage this ranch, or they are going to force a sale. If you are looking for steady, reliable work, this probably is not it." Wade tied his horse to the rail and studied the ranch yard, the barn, the distant cattle grazing on the brown hills. "Place looks solid. Good bones. Why does the bank think you cannot run it? Because I am a woman." "Can you run it?" The question surprised her. Not the mocking tone she expected, not the dismissive attitude she had gotten from every other man since her father died, just a straight question looking for a straight answer. "Yes," Lily said. "I have been working this ranch since I was 12 years old. I know every inch of this land, every water source, every danger. I know cattle and horses. I can rope and ride and shoot. I can do the books and manage supplies. The only thing I cannot do is be in 12 places at once, which is what I would need to do with half my crew walking out." Wade nodded slowly. "What is the first priority?" "Moving the herd to high pasture. They need to be up in the meadows before the heat gets too bad down here, and we need to repair the fence line that washed out in the spring floods. After that, there is always something. Breaking horses, repairing buildings, getting ready for fall roundup and drive to market." "I can do all that," Wade said, "but I need to tell you something up front. I am good with cattle and horses, I know ranching. But I left my last job in Wyoming under circumstances that were not entirely friendly." Lily felt her hand drift closer to the rifle. "What kind of circumstances?" "The foreman's son took a liking to beating the younger hands for entertainment. I stopped him. His father did not appreciate it. I figured it was time to move on before things got worse." "You kill anybody?" "No, madam. Just broke the kid's nose and maybe a couple ribs. He will live, though his pride took a worse beating than his body." Lily found herself believing him. Maybe she was a fool, maybe desperation was clouding her judgment, but something about Wade Olson rang true. "All right. Standard wages and you pull your weight. You can bunk in the building with the other hands. Meals are at sunup, noon, and sundown in the main house. You work hard, I will treat you fair. You cause trouble, you are gone. Deal?" Wade extended his hand. "Deal." His grip was firm and calloused, a working man's hand. Lily shook it, and then showed him to the bunkhouse, introduced him to the hands who were staying, and set him up with a bunk and space for his gear. By the time she got back to the main house to start dinner, the sun was dropping toward the mountains and painting the whole valley gold and red. She made a simple meal of beans, bacon, and cornbread, enough for the 7 hands she had left, including Wade. They ate in the dining room that could seat 20 when her father used to throw parties for neighboring ranchers. Now it felt cavernous and empty, but Lily held her head up and acted like everything was normal. The men ate quickly and quietly, then headed back to the bunkhouse. Wade stayed behind and helped her clear the dishes without being asked. "You do not have to do that," Lily said. "Kitchen work is not part of the job. Neither is letting good food go to waste, but here we are," Wade said, carrying plates to the wash basin. "My mother raised me to help with cleaning up. Old habits. Your mother still around?" "No, madam. Died when I was 16. My father went a year later. I have been working ranches since then, moving around, learning the trade. Sorry about your parents. Sorry about yours. Heard in town your father just passed." They washed the dishes in comfortable silence. It struck Lily as strange how easy it felt, having this man she had just met working in her kitchen like it was the most natural thing in the world. Usually she felt like she had to prove herself with every word, every action. showing she was tough enough and smart enough and strong enough. With Wade, it was just quiet work getting done. "Can I ask you something?" Wade said as he dried the last plate. "Go ahead." "Why do you want to keep this place so bad? No judgment, but you could sell it, take the money, live comfortable somewhere easier." Lily looked out the window at the darkening land, the mountains black against the purple sky. "This ranch is all I have of my family. My father built it from nothing. My mother made it a home. Every fence post, every barn board, every head of cattle represents years of their work, their dreams, their sweat. If I sell it, I am saying all that did not matter. I am saying I am too weak to carry on what they started. And maybe I am, but I would rather die trying than give up without a fight." Wade nodded like he understood. "Then I guess we better get to work." The next morning started before dawn. Lily woke the hands and assigned tasks. Wade she partnered with herself to ride out and check the herd, get an accurate count, and plan the move to high pasture. They saddled up in the pre-dawn dark and rode out as the sun was just starting to paint the eastern sky pink. The cattle were scattered across the valley floor, grazing on grass that was already starting to brown under the summer heat. Lily and Wade worked together, cutting out small groups and driving them closer together, getting a count, checking for sick or injured animals. Wade worked like a man who knew cattle inside and out, anticipating their movements, working his horse with the kind of unconscious skill that came from years of practice. "You are good at this," Lily said when they stopped to water the horses at a creek. "So are you," Wade replied. "Better than good, actually. You read cattle like you can hear them thinking. My father used to say that, said I had a gift for it. He was right." They worked through the day, stopping only briefly for the lunch Lily had packed. By evening they had an accurate count and a plan for moving the herd. 212 head, mostly healthy, a few calves born late in the season that would need watching. The move would take 3 days with the crew they had, driving the cattle up through the canyon past to the high meadows where the grass was still green and the water ran cold and clear. Over the next week, Lily and Wade fell into a rhythm. They worked together from before dawn to after dark, planning, organizing, getting the ranch ready for the big move. The other hand started looking to Wade for direction when Lily was not around, and Wade always redirected them back to her. He never undermined her authority, never questioned her decisions in front of the crew, and when he had suggestions, he made them private and respectful. It was exactly what she needed but had never dared to hope for. On the 8th day after Wade arrived, they moved the herd. It was hard, dusty work, pushing 200 head of cattle up a narrow canyon trail while the sun beat down like a hammer. Lily rode point, leading the way while Wade worked the back, pushing the stragglers. The other hands worked the sides, keeping the herd together, preventing breakaways. Everything went smooth until they were halfway up the canyon. A rattlesnake spooked a young bull, which panicked and charged back down the trail, scattering other cattle. Lily wheeled her horse around, trying to cut off the bull before he started a full stampede. Wade was already moving, his horse dancing sideways to block the trail. The bull came at him head down, 1,500 pounds of scared beef moving fast. Wade did not flinch. He rode straight at the bull, yelling and waving his rope, and at the last second the bull veered off, crashing into the brush on the side of the trail. Wade followed, keeping the pressure on, turning the bull back toward the herd. Lily moved in from the other side, and together they got the animal calmed down and moving in the right direction. "That was close," Lily said when they had the herd moving again. "That was impressive," Wade replied. "You did not hesitate, neither did you." "Yeah, but everyone expects men to be brave and stupid. You just proved you are both brave and smart, which is more threatening." Lily laughed, surprised by the sound. She had not laughed much since her father died. "Is that supposed to be a compliment?" "Yes, madam." They got the herd to high pasture by evening and spent the night camped under the stars, taking turns on watch to make sure the cattle did not wander. Lily took the first watch, and Wade joined her even though it was not his shift. "You should sleep," Lily said. "Tomorrow is another long day." "Not tired," Wade said. He sat on a rock near the fire, looking out at the dark shapes of the cattle against the starlit meadow. "This is nice country, quiet. You like quiet? I have learned to appreciate it." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the fire crackling, the cattle settling, the night alive with crickets and distant coyote calls. Lily found herself studying Wade in the firelight, the strong lines of his face, the way he sat easy even when he was watching everything. She realized she trusted him, which was a dangerous thing. Trust got you hurt, trust made you vulnerable, but maybe, she thought, some risks were worth taking. "Thank you," she said quietly. Wade looked at her, his eyes reflecting the firelight. "For what?" "For not treating me like I am stupid or incapable, for working with me instead of against me, for staying when everyone else left. You do not need to thank me for doing my job. It is more than that, you know it is." Wade held her gaze for a long moment. "Yeah," he said finally. "I guess it is." The next morning they rode back to the ranch, leaving two hands to watch the herd. The place felt different somehow, less oppressive, less lonely. Maybe it was having Wade there, his steady presence making everything feel more possible. Maybe it was the success of the drive, proof that they could do this. Maybe it was just that Lily was starting to believe in herself again. The banker came by 2 days later, expecting to find chaos and failure. Instead, he found a working ranch with the herd safely moved to pasture, the hands busy repairing fence line, and Lily calmly managing the books in her father's old study. "Miss Foster," the banker said, his tone suggesting he was surprised to find her still there. "I came to check on the progress of the ranch. As you can see, everything is well in hand," Lily replied. "The herd has been moved to summer pasture, we are ahead on fence repairs, and we have a solid crew. I see you hired a new man, Wade Olson. He is an experienced ranch hand and good with cattle." The banker looked out the window to where Wade was working on the corral fence, his shirt sleeves rolled up, muscles moving under sun-browned skin. "Where did he come from? Wyoming. Why does it matter?" "I like to know who is working on properties the bank has an interest in." Lily felt her temper flare but kept her voice level. "The bank does not own this ranch. Yet. And I plan to make sure you never do. Now, if you will excuse me, I have work to do." The banker left, clearly unsatisfied but unable to find anything to criticize. Lily watched him go and felt a small surge of triumph. Small victories, her father used to say, they added up to big wins. That evening, after the hands had eaten and returned to the bunkhouse, Wade again stayed to help with dishes. It had become their routine, this quiet time together at the end of the day. Lily had started looking forward to it more than she wanted to admit. "Banker seemed interested in you," Lily said, scrubbing a pot. "Bankers make me nervous," Wade replied. "They always want something." He wanted to find something wrong, some excuse to force me to sell. He did not find it. Good. "Wade, can I ask you something personal?" He paused in his drying. "Sure." "Why did you really come here? I mean the real reason, not the story about fair wages and no questions." Wade was quiet for a long moment. Then he set down the plate he was holding and looked at her directly. "Honest answer, always. I have worked a dozen ranches in the last 8 years. Every one of them, the owners treated the hands like we were stupid or lazy or both. They paid poorly, fed us worse, and figured we were too dumb or too desperate to complain. When I heard in town about a woman trying to run a ranch by herself, I figured two things. One, you would be desperate enough to pay fair wages. Two, you would know what it felt like to be underestimated and dismissed, so you might treat your hands like human beings instead of mules. Was I right? Yeah, Wade said. You were, and that is not all. What else? He took a breath. I also figured if you were brave enough to try running a ranch in a world that tells women they cannot, you might be someone worth working for, someone with integrity. I was right about that too. Lily felt heat rise to her face that had nothing to do with the dishwater. That is quite a gamble to take based on gossip in a saloon. Sometimes you have to trust your instincts, and your instincts told you I was worth the risk. Wade looked at her with those green eyes that seemed to see right through her defenses. Yeah, they did. The moment stretched between them, charged with something Lily did not want to name. Then Wade cleared his throat and picked up another dish, and the spell broke, but something had shifted. Lily felt it in her chest, a warmth that had nothing to do with the summer heat and everything to do with the man standing next to her, carefully drying plates like it was the most important job in the world. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of hard work. They repaired fence line, broke 2 young horses to saddle, fixed the leak in the barn roof that had been driving Lily crazy all spring, and dealt with a mountain lion that was getting too comfortable around the cattle. Wade shot the lion after tracking it for 2 days, and Lily was impressed by his skill and patience. "You are a good tracker," she said as they rode back with the lion's body tied to his pack horse. "My father taught me. He was part Lakota, learned tracking from his mother, passed it on to me." "That must have been hard, being mixed blood." Wade shrugged. "It was what it was. My mother was Norwegian, blonde and blue-eyed. My father had dark hair and dark eyes and a face that told his story. People gave us trouble sometimes, but my parents did not care what people thought. They loved each other, and that was enough." "What were they like?" Wade smiled, a rare expression that softened his whole face. "They were good people. My mother was strong, physically and mentally. She could work as hard as any man and still have energy to teach me to read at night by lamplight. My father was quiet but kind. He never raised his voice, never raised his hand, but everyone respected him because he was fair and honest and kept his word." "They sound wonderful." "They were. I miss them every day." Lily felt a pang of kinship. "I miss my parents too, especially my father. He was not just my parent, he was my partner in running this place. Now I feel like I am trying to hear his voice in my head, asking what he would do, trying to live up to what he built." "You are not just living up to it," Wade said. "You are making it your own. That is better." "How do you figure?" "Your father built this ranch for his family, for you. He did not build it so you could spend your life trying to be him. He built it so you could be yourself. You honor him by running this place your way, making your own choices, building your own legacy." The words hit Lily hard, opening something in her chest that had been closed tight since the funeral. Wade was right. She had been so focused on proving she could do what her father did that she had forgotten to think about what she wanted to do, how she wanted to run the ranch. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I needed to hear that." Wade just nodded, but his eyes held warmth and understanding. That night, lying in her bed listening to the sounds of the ranch settling for the night, Lily admitted to herself what she had been avoiding for days. She was falling for Wade Olson. It was foolish and dangerous and the worst possible timing. She barely knew him, and he would probably move on once the season ended like every other ranch hand. Getting attached was setting herself up for heartbreak, but her heart did not seem to care about logic. Her heart noticed how Wade always made sure she ate enough, how he checked her horse's shoes without being asked, how he deferred to her in front of the hands but offered thoughtful suggestions in private. Her heart noticed how his rare smiles transformed his serious face, how his hands were gentle with the horses and steady on a rope, how his presence made her feel less alone. She was falling for him, and there was not a damn thing she could do about it. The next morning, Pete Sullivan came to tell her he was leaving for Wyoming at the end of the week. Lily had known it was coming, but it still stung. "I am sorry, Lily," Pete said. They were in the barn, checking on the mare that had finally foaled the night before. "Your father was a good man and you are doing a fine job, but my brother needs me and I promised I would come." "I understand," Lily said. "Thank you for staying as long as you did." Pete looked uncomfortable. "There is something I should tell you. Some of the men in town, they are placing bets on when you will fail. There is talk of a couple ranchers planning to lowball you on a sale offer once the bank forces you out." "Let them talk," Lily said, though anger burned in her chest. "I am not failing and I am not selling." "That new hand, Wade, he is good. Keep him on. He has a good head on his shoulders and the men respect him. I plan to." After Pete left, Lily found Wade in the corral working with one of the young horses they had been breaking. He moved around the animal calm and patient, talking in a low voice, building trust instead of breaking spirit. Lily watched for a few minutes, appreciating his skill and his kindness. "Pete is leaving end of the week," she said when Wade noticed her. He nodded. "Figured he would. He told me about his brother in Wyoming. That makes you my most experienced hand." "I guess it does. I would like to offer you the foreman position. It comes with better pay and your own cabin instead of the bunkhouse. You would help me run the day-to-day operations, manage the other hands, and have a say in ranch decisions." Wade stopped working and looked at her. "That is a big promotion for someone you have known less than a month. I trust you. The hands respect you. You work harder than anyone and you treat everyone fair. You are good at this work and you understand what I am trying to do here. I cannot think of anyone better for the job. What if I let you down? What if you do not?" Wade smiled slightly. "You make a good argument. Is that a yes?" "That is a yes." They shook on it, and Lily felt relief and something warmer wash over her. Having Wade as her partner in running the ranch felt right, like pieces falling into place. Over the next month, they worked together even more closely. Wade moved into the foreman's cabin, a small two-room building near the main house that had been Pete's. He helped Lily manage the books, plan the work, make decisions about stock and sales. They ate breakfast together most mornings, planning the day. They often worked side by side during the day, fixing whatever needed fixing, checking on cattle and horses, managing the hands. And most evenings, they shared the quiet ritual of dinner and dishes, talking about the ranch or their pasts, or sometimes just sitting in comfortable silence. Lily had never felt closer to anyone in her life. Wade understood her in a way no one else did. He saw her as a person, not just a woman trying to do a man's job. He valued her opinions and respected her decisions. He challenged her when he thought she was wrong, but always in private and always with solid reasoning. He made her laugh with dry observations about ranch life. He made her feel capable and valued and seen. And somewhere along the way, friendship had deepened into something more intense. Lily caught herself watching him when he worked, admiring the lean strength of his body and the quiet confidence in his movements. She noticed the way her heart sped up when he smiled at her, the way his rare touches sent electricity through her skin, the way she felt both safe and excited when he was near. She was in love with him. Completely, terrifyingly in love, and she had no idea if he felt the same way. August blazed hot and dry, turning the valley brown and sending the cattle deeper into the high meadows looking for grass and water. Lily and Wade rode up to check on the herd twice a week, sometimes staying overnight to give the hands a break. Those nights under the stars were some of Lily's favorites. Away from the ranch and its constant demands, she and Wade could just be themselves. They talked about everything and nothing, sharing stories from their childhoods, their dreams for the future, their fears and hopes. One night, sitting by the fire with the cattle settled and the stars brilliant overhead, Wade asked her something that had been on his mind. "What will you do with the ranch if you manage to keep it? Long term, I mean." Lily poked at the fire with a stick, thinking. "I want to improve the bloodlines. We have good cattle, but we could be breeding better beef stock. I want to expand the horse operation. We have good grazing land and water, and quality horses always sell. I want to build a better life for the hands too. Fair wages, decent food, respect. My father believed in that and I want to honor it. Those are good goals. What about you? What do you want?" Wade was quiet for a long time. "Honestly, I want a place to call home. I have been drifting for 8 years, moving from job to job, never staying anywhere long enough to put down roots. I am tired of it. I want land of my own someday, or at least a place where I belong, where I can build something lasting." "You have that here," Lily said, "if you want it." Wade looked at her across the fire. "What are you saying?" Lily's heart pounded, but she forced herself to be brave. "I am saying I want you to stay, not just for this season but permanently. As my foreman, as my partner in running this ranch. I could not do this without you, Wade." "I do not want to do it without you, Lily." Her name in his mouth was soft, almost reverent. "You have to know what you are saying to me right now." "I know exactly what I am saying." Wade stood and walked around the fire to where she sat. He crouched down in front of her so they were eye to eye. "If I stay, it will not be just as your foreman or your partner. It will not be enough. I need you to understand that." Lily's breath caught. "Then what will it be?" "Everything," Wade said. "I want everything with you, Lily. I have tried to keep my distance, tried to remember my place, but I am done pretending. I have been in love with you since the day I watched you stand up to that banker and refuse to back down. I am in love with your strength and your kindness and your fierce determination. I am in love with the way you care for this land and the people who work it. I am in love with who you are, and I cannot keep pretending I am not." Lily felt tears sting her eyes. "I thought I was going crazy. I thought it was just me." "It is not just you," Wade said. He reached up and cupped her face gently. "I am standing here with my heart in my hands, hoping you feel even a fraction of what I feel." "More than a fraction," Lily whispered. "Wade, I love you. I have been terrified to say it, terrified you would leave or I would scare you away, but I love you." Wade's smile was like the sun coming up. He leaned in and kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. Lily kissed him back, her hands coming up to his shoulders, feeling the solid warmth of him, the reality of this moment she had been dreaming about for weeks. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Wade rested his forehead against hers. "Say it again. I love you. Again. I love you, Wade Olson." "I am never going to get tired of hearing that," Wade said. He kissed her again, deeper this time, and Lily felt like her whole body was on fire. When they finally broke apart, they were both shaking. "We should probably stop," Wade said, though he made no move to let her go. "Probably," Lily agreed. She did not want to stop. She wanted to pull him closer, wanted to feel his weight and warmth, wanted to express with her body what words could not quite capture. But they were in an open camp with the hands sleeping nearby, and despite the wild feelings coursing through her, she had a reputation to maintain. They sat together by the fire, Wade's arm around Lily's shoulders, her head on his chest. They talked in quiet voices about the future, about what it would mean to be together, about the challenges they would face. In 1882, Colorado, a female ranch owner and her foreman being in a romantic relationship would raise eyebrows and create gossip. But they decided they did not care. They would face it together. "We should probably get married," Wade said as the fire burned low. "Not because we have to, but because I want everyone to know you are mine and I am yours. I want to make this official and permanent." "Is that a proposal?" Lily asked, her heart racing again. "It is a terrible proposal," Wade admitted. "I do not have a ring and we are sitting in the dirt by a campfire. You deserve better. But yes, I am asking you to marry me, Lily Foster. I am asking you to let me be your husband and your partner and the man who wakes up next to you for the rest of our lives." "Yes," Lily said without hesitation. "Yes, I will marry you." Wade kissed her again, sealing the promise between them. They sat together under the stars, planning a future that had seemed impossible just months ago. Lily had never felt so happy or so certain about anything in her life. They rode back to the ranch the next morning, and over breakfast, they told the hands about their engagement. The reaction was mixed. Most of the men were happy for them, offering congratulations and good-natured jokes. A couple seemed uncomfortable with the idea of a female boss marrying her foreman, but they kept their mouths shut. The real test came when the news reached town. The gossip spread like wildfire, and within days, Lily had visitors. First came the pastor, concerned about propriety. Then came the church ladies, scandalized that Lily was living on the same property as her fiancé without a proper chaperone. Then came the ranchers, some offering fake congratulations while clearly hoping she would fail. Others genuinely pleased for her. The banker came last. He arrived on a hot afternoon in late August, his buggy kicking up dust on the ranch road. Lily met him on the porch with Wade standing beside her, a united front. "Miss Foster," the banker said, "I heard the news of your engagement. Congratulations." "Thank you, Mr. Henderson. I also came to inform you that the 30-day evaluation period has ended. I have been observing the ranch's operations, and I must say I am impressed. You have managed to keep the operation running smoothly despite the loss of your father and most of your crew. The cattle are healthy, the property is well maintained, and you show every sign of being able to continue managing this ranch successfully." Lily felt relief crash over her like a wave. "Does that mean the bank is satisfied?" "It means the bank will not force a sale at this time." "You have proven yourself capable, Miss Foster. Your father would be proud." After the banker left, Lily turned to Wade and hugged him hard. "We did it. We actually did it." "You did it," Wade corrected. "I just helped." "We did it together," Lily insisted. "Everything from this point on, we do together." They were married in early September, just before the fall roundup and cattle drive. It was a simple ceremony in the Gunnison church with the ranch hands as witnesses and a few friends from neighboring ranches in attendance. Lily wore her mother's wedding dress, carefully preserved in a trunk for 20 years. Wade wore a new suit bought specially for the occasion, though he looked slightly uncomfortable in the formal clothes. When the pastor pronounced them husband and wife, Wade kissed Lily like they were the only two people in the world. The small congregation erupted in applause and good-natured whooping from the ranch hands. The reception was held at the ranch, a barbecue in the yard with music and dancing. Lily had never felt so happy or so complete. She danced with Wade, with the hands, with neighboring ranchers who had come to celebrate. She ate good food and drank wine and laughed until her sides hurt. As the sun set and the party wound down, Wade took Lily's hand and led her to the main house. He had moved his belongings in earlier that week, and now it was truly their home, not just hers. They climbed the stairs to the bedroom that had been Lily's alone for years, and Wade closed the door behind them. "Hello, wife," he said with a grin. "Hello, husband," Lily replied. Feeling shy suddenly, despite everything they had shared, Wade crossed to her and began carefully removing the pins from her hair. letting the long brown waves fall loose around her shoulders. "I have been waiting for this moment since the day I met you." "To mess up my hair," he laughed, "to call you mine, to hold you without having to let go, to love you the way I have wanted to for months." Lily reached up and began unbuttoning his shirt. "Then stop talking and love me." They came together with passion and tenderness, exploring each other, learning what brought pleasure and what drew gasps and sighs. Wade was gentle and attentive, making sure Lily felt safe and cherished. Lily gave herself completely, holding nothing back, trusting Wade with her body and heart. Afterward, lying tangled together in the sheets with moonlight streaming through the window, Wade traced lazy patterns on Lily's bare shoulder. "I love you, Lily Olson." "I love that name," Lily said. "Lily Olson. It sounds right. It is right. You are right. This is right. Everything about us is right." They fell asleep wrapped around each other, content and complete. The next weeks were busy with the fall roundup and preparation for the cattle drive. They would be driving 200 head to the railhead in Denver, a 2-week journey that would test everyone involved. Lily had never made the full drive before. Her father had always left her behind to manage the ranch while he went. But this year, she was going and Wade would be beside her. They left in early October with 6 hands and the herd. The weather was perfect, cool but not cold, clear skies and light winds. The cattle were in good shape, fat from summer pasture and ready for market. Everything was going according to plan. Until the 3rd day out, when they encountered Jacob Morris and his men. Morris owned a ranch north of Gunnison, a big spread that had been in his family for generations. He was wealthy, powerful, and had made his interest in buying the Double F ranch clear multiple times. He had also made it clear he did not think Lily should be running a ranch, and he resented that she had turned down his purchase offers. Now he sat on his horse blocking the trail with 4 of his men spread out behind him. They were all armed, all watching the Double F crew with hostile eyes. "Lily Foster," Morris said with false politeness. "Or should I say Lily Olson now, heard you got married." "Mr. Morris," Lily replied evenly. She sat her horse with confidence, Wade beside her, the hands spread out with the herd. "We are just passing through, taking our cattle to market." "About that. This trail crosses my land for about 5 miles up ahead. I am afraid I am going to have to charge you a toll for passage." Lily kept her face neutral, but inside she was furious. This trail had been public access for 30 years. Morris had no legal right to charge a toll. He was just trying to create problems, trying to drain her resources or provoke a confrontation. "How much is this toll?" $5 a head. The number was absurd. At $5 per head for 200 cattle, that was $1,000, which was more than she would make from the entire sale. "That is highway robbery." "That is the price of passage," Morris said, "unless you want to take the long way around, which would add 10 days to your drive." "Your choice." Wade edged his horse slightly forward. "There is no legal basis for charging a toll on public trail." "You must be the husband," Morris said, looking at Wade like he was something scraped off a boot. "Word in town is you are some drifter who seduced Lily into marriage to get control of her ranch." "That true?" "No," Wade said flatly. "It is not. Seems suspicious to me. Woman running a ranch by herself. Along comes a cowboy with a convenient sob story, and next thing you know they are married and he is running the place." Lily felt her temper snap. "Nobody is running my place but me. Wade is my husband and my partner, and I will not tolerate you or anyone else disrespecting him. Now move aside and let us pass, or I will report you to the sheriff for interfering with legal commerce." Morris's face hardened. "You always were too big for your britches, Lily. Your father spoiled you, let you think you could do men's work. Now you are out here pretending to run cattle when you should be home where you belong." "I am home," Lily said. "This land, this work, this is my home, and I am done listening to you tell me I do not belong in my own life. Move." For a tense moment, nobody breathed. Morris and his men had their hands near their guns. The double F hands were doing the same. It could go bad very quickly. Then Wade spoke, his voice calm but carrying clear authority. "Mr. Morris, you are welcome to ride into Denver and file a legal claim for toll rights on this trail. But until you have a legal judgment, this herd is passing through. You can let us pass peaceful, or you can draw those guns and explain to the sheriff why you started a range war over cattle passing through public land. Your choice." Morris looked at Wade like he was reevaluating him. Then he looked at his men, clearly calculating odds. 5 men against 8, but the double F crew had right on their side and witnesses to Morris threatening them. "This is not over," Morris said finally. He pulled his horse aside. "You have not heard the last from me, Lily." "Looking forward to it," Lily said. She signaled the hands to move the herd forward. They drove the cattle past Morris and his men, everyone tense and ready for trouble. But Morris let them pass once they were well clear. Lily let out a breath she had not known she was holding. Wade rode up beside her. "You handled that well." "I wanted to shoot him." "Yeah, but you did not. That is what counts." They made camp that night in a box canyon with good grass and water. The hands were still keyed up from the confrontation with Morris, talking in tight voices about what might have happened. Lily and Wade checked the herd, set the watch rotation, and then walked a short distance from camp to be alone. "Do you think he will actually try something?" Lily asked. "He might," Wade said honestly. "Men like Morris are used to getting their way." Having a woman stand up to him in front of his men, that hurt his pride. He might let it go, or he might try to save face by causing trouble. "What should we do?" "What we are doing. Move the herd to Denver, sell them, get paid, and go home. We keep our eyes open and our guns loaded, and we do not give Morris or anyone else an excuse to claim we started trouble." Lily leaned against Wade, drawing strength from his solid presence. "I am glad you are here." "I am not going anywhere," Wade promised. "Whatever comes, we face it together." They made Denver without further trouble. The cattle sold well, bringing a fair price that would keep the ranch running for another year and leave enough for improvements. Lily paid the hands their wages plus a bonus for the successful drive. Then she and Wade checked into a hotel for 2 nights before heading home. It was the first time they had been completely alone since their wedding night, without the ranch or the hands or the constant press of work demanding their attention. They made the most of it, spending long hours in bed, talking and making love and just being together. They also took time to explore Denver, buying supplies for the ranch, ordering a new stove for the kitchen, and visiting a jeweler where Wade bought Lily a proper wedding ring. "You did not have to do this," Lily said as he slipped the simple gold band onto her finger. "I wanted to," Wade replied. "I want everyone who sees you to know you are claimed. I am not property to be claimed. You know what I mean. I want everyone to know you chose me and I chose you." Lily kissed him, not caring that they were standing in the middle of a Denver street. "I choose you. Every day I choose you." They returned to the ranch in late October to find everything had run smoothly in their absence. The hands had kept things going, the horses were all healthy, and nothing had burned down or fallen apart. It was a good feeling, knowing the ranch could function without them there every minute. Winter came to Colorado with snow and bitter cold. The work changed from the constant outdoor activity of summer to maintenance and planning. They spent time in the warm ranch house going over books, planning next year's breeding program, and making lists of repairs that would need to happen come spring. Lily had never been happier. She woke every morning beside the man she loved, worked alongside him during the day, and fell asleep in his arms at night. The ranch was thriving. They had money in the bank. The hands were loyal and hardworking. Everything she had fought for was coming together. In February, Lily realized she had missed her monthly cycle. Then she missed it again. By March, there was no denying what was happening. She was pregnant. She told Wade one evening after dinner, nervous despite knowing he would be happy. "I have news." Wade looked up from the harness he was repairing. "Good news or bad news?" "Good news, I hope." "Wade, I am pregnant. We are going to have a baby." The harness dropped from his hands. For a moment he just stared at her. Then a grin split his face and he crossed the room in 3 strides, lifting her up and spinning her around. "A baby? Really, really," Lily laughed. "Put me down, you are making me dizzy." Wade set her down carefully like she was made of glass. "Are you all right? Do you need to sit?" "Should you be working so hard?" "I am pregnant, not dying. Women have been having babies and working ranches for centuries. But you are my wife and this is my baby and I want you safe." Lily touched his face gently. "I will be safe. We will be safe. I promise to be careful and not take stupid risks, but I am not going to stop being who I am just because I am carrying a child." Wade nodded, though she could see the worry in his eyes. "I know. I just love you so much. The thought of anything happening to you or the baby terrifies me." "Nothing is going to happen," Lily assured him. "We are going to have a healthy baby and raise them on this ranch and teach them everything we know. Boy or girl, do you think? Does it matter? Not even a little. As long as they are healthy and look like you. If they look like me and have your disposition, we are in for an interesting time." Wade laughed and pulled her close, resting his hand on her still flat belly. "A baby, our baby. I can hardly believe it." Over the next months, Lily's belly grew and the whole ranch got involved in preparing for the baby. The hands built a beautiful cradle from oak wood. The neighboring ranchers' wives brought baby clothes and blankets. The pastor's wife gave Lily advice about pregnancy and childbirth that ranged from helpful to terrifying. Wade was attentive to the point of being overprotective. He did not want Lily riding horses, lifting anything heavy, or working in the hot sun. Lily humored him when she could and ignored him when she could not. She was not going to spend 6 months sitting on the porch like an invalid. They had one scare in her 6th month when Lily slipped on ice in the barn and fell hard. Wade found her on the ground, holding her belly, tears streaming down her face. He carried her to the house and sent for the doctor, staying beside her the whole time, holding her hand and praying under his breath. The doctor examined her and declared everything fine. The baby was still moving, her belly was not bleeding, and there were no signs of early labor. But Lily needed to be more careful. After that, Lily was more willing to accept Wade's protectiveness. The fall had scared her badly, made her realize how fragile everything was. She started letting Wade handle more of the outdoor work while she focused on managing the books and planning. She still rode out to check on things, but she took it easier, accepted help more graciously, and listened when Wade told her to rest. The baby was born in early October, almost exactly a year after their cattle drive to Denver. Labor started in the early morning and lasted through the day into evening. The doctor and the pastor's wife attended Lily while Wade paced outside the bedroom, terrified by the sounds of pain coming from within. When the baby finally arrived, the cries were strong and healthy. The pastor's wife opened the door to find Wade practically vibrating with anxiety. "Congratulations, Mr. Olson. You have a son." Wade pushed past her into the room. Lily lay exhausted in the bed, her hair plastered to her head with sweat, but she was smiling. In her arms was a tiny bundle, red-faced and squalling. Wade moved to the bedside and looked down at his son with wonder. "He is perfect," Wade whispered. "He is loud," Lily said with a tired laugh. "But yes, he is perfect. Do you want to hold him?" Wade carefully took the baby, cradling him like he was the most precious thing in the world. The baby quieted, looking up at his father with unfocused dark blue eyes. "Hello, little one," Wade said softly. "I am your father. I am going to teach you everything I know, and your mother is going to teach you even more. We are going to love you and protect you and give you the best life we can." The baby yawned hugely, completely unimpressed with this speech. Wade laughed and handed him back to Lily, then bent to kiss his wife's forehead. "You were so brave. I love you." "I love you too," Lily said. "What should we name him?" They had discussed names for months without settling on anything. But looking at his tiny face, the answer came to Wade immediately. "George, after your father, George Wade Olson." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "My father would have loved that, yes. George Wade Olson." The baby settled into ranch life like he had been born to it, which in a way he had. He was a good baby, healthy and strong, with his father's dark hair and his mother's brown eyes. The hands doted on him, taking turns holding him and making him toys. Wade was a devoted father, handling middle-of-the-night feedings and diaper changes without complaint, singing his son to sleep with old Norwegian songs his mother had taught him. Lily recovered quickly from the birth and was back to light work within weeks. She had worried that having a baby would mean giving up her role running the ranch, but she found that with Wade as her partner and the loyal crew they had built, she could balance motherhood and ranch management. It was exhausting and chaotic at times, but it was also wonderful. Little George's first winter was mild, which everyone took as a good sign. Spring came early, and with it the usual explosion of work. But the ranch was in the best shape it had ever been. They had money saved, quality livestock, good people working the land, and a growing family. Everything Lily had fought for, everything she had been told she could not have or do, she had achieved. One evening in late spring, with George sleeping in his cradle and the ranch settled for the night, Lily and Wade sat on the porch watching the sun set over the mountains. Wade had his arm around her shoulders and Lily leaned into his warmth, content. "Do you remember what you said to me the day we met?" Wade asked. "I said a lot of things. Which part?" "You said no one believed you could run this ranch." "I remember." "I was terrified and angry and determined to prove everyone wrong." "Did you prove them wrong?" Lily thought about it. The ranch was thriving. She had earned the respect of neighboring ranchers and the loyalty of her hands. She had fought off the bank's attempts to force a sale. She had married the man she loved and given birth to a beautiful son. She had done everything people said she could not do. "Yes," she said finally. "I proved them wrong. We proved them wrong." "You know what the best part is," Wade said. "What?" "You do not need their belief anymore. You believe in yourself now. That is what matters." Lily turned to kiss him, this man who had seen her worth when no one else did, who had become her partner and lover and the father of her child. "I could not have done any of this without you." "Yes, you could have," Wade said. "But I am glad you did not have to." They sat in peaceful silence as the stars came out, planning future improvements to the ranch, dreaming about what life would be like as George grew up, imagining more children running through the ranch house. It was everything Lily had never dared to dream about when she stood on this same porch watching the banker ride away, convinced her world was ending. Instead, it had just been beginning. 2 years later, Lily gave birth to a daughter they named Sarah. George was fascinated by his baby sister, and Wade's heart was completely stolen by his tiny daughter with Lily's features and his own stubborn determination. The ranch continued to prosper, and they expanded their horse breeding program, gaining a reputation for quality stock that brought buyers from as far as California. 5 years after that, a third child arrived, another boy they named Thomas. The ranch house rang with children's laughter, and the hands joked that they had signed on to work cattle, not babysit, though everyone could see how much they loved having children around. Wade built additions onto the ranch house, expanding it to accommodate their growing family. He also built a proper schoolhouse on the property and hired a teacher from Denver, because Lily was determined their children would have the education she had missed. Neighboring ranchers started sending their children too, and the little school became a gathering place for the community. Morris never did cause the trouble he threatened. His own ranch hit hard times during a drought, and he eventually sold out and moved to California. Other challenges came and went over the years: harsh winters, dry summers, market fluctuations, the occasional difficult hand who had to be let go. But through it all, Lily and Wade faced everything together, their partnership growing stronger with each passing year. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Wade gave Lily a gift. It was a hand-carved wooden sign that read "Double F Ranch Lily Olson, Proprietor Wade Olson, Foreman." "I want everyone who comes here to know this is your ranch," Wade said as they hung it over the main entrance. "You built this. You saved it. You made it what it is." "We made it what it is," Lily corrected. "I could not have done any of this without you." "Maybe," Wade allowed. "But you would have found a way. You are the strongest person I know." Lily looked at the sign, at the ranch spread out before her, at the mountains rising in the distance. She thought about the scared young woman she had been, standing on the porch watching the banker leave, convinced she was going to lose everything. She thought about how far she had come, how much she had built, how full her life had become. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For believing in me when no one else did, for standing beside me, for loving me." Wade pulled her close and kissed her temple. "Easiest thing I ever did." That evening, with their children playing in the yard and the ranch hands finishing up the day's work, Lily and Wade stood on the porch watching the sunset paint the Colorado sky in shades of gold and red and purple. George, now 10, was teaching his younger siblings to rope a fence post. Sarah's laughter rang clear in the evening air, and little Thomas was running in circles with the ranch dogs. "This is everything I never knew I wanted," Wade said, his arm around Lily's waist. "Me too," Lily agreed. She leaned into him, feeling the solid strength of his body, the steady beat of his heart. Everything. The ranch stretched out before them, prosperous and alive, a testament to their hard work and partnership. The Double F had become more than just a cattle operation. It was a family legacy, a gathering place for community, a home built on love and determination, and the unwavering belief that anything was possible if you were willing to work for it. As the sun set and the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Lily thought about all the people who had doubted her, who had told her she could not do this, who had bet against her success. She thought about the fear and loneliness she had felt after her father died, the crushing weight of expectation and doubt. And then she looked at Wade, at their children, at the thriving ranch around them, and she smiled. She had proven everyone wrong. She had done what they said could not be done. And she had found a love story in the process that was beyond anything she could have imagined. "I love you," she said to Wade, not for the first time and certainly not for the last. "I love you too," Wade replied. "Always." As darkness fell over the Colorado Valley and the ranch settled in for the night, the little family moved inside to warmth and lamplight, to dinner and stories and the comfortable routines of home. The challenges would continue to come, as they always did. But Lily knew with absolute certainty that whatever the future brought, they would face it together. She had her partner, her believer, her love, and that made her strong enough to face anything. Years continued to pass at the Double F Ranch, each season bringing its own rhythm of work and reward. George grew into a serious young man who showed remarkable talent with horses, while Sarah developed a head for numbers that impressed even the banker in town. Thomas was the wild one, always getting into some kind of trouble, but with a good heart that showed in the way he looked after the ranch animals. Lily watched her children grow with a mixture of pride and bittersweet awareness that time moved too quickly. She and Wade both knew the importance of teaching their children not just ranch skills but values. Respect for the land, kindness toward those who worked for them, the value of hard work and honest dealing. They wanted their children to understand the legacy they would inherit. When George turned 18, Wade took him on a long cattle drive to Denver, just the two of them, the way men had been teaching their sons for generations. When they returned 3 weeks later, George had grown somehow, carrying himself with new confidence. He sought out his mother immediately and hugged her hard. "I understand now," he said. "What you did, keeping this place when everyone said you could not. Pa told me everything about how it was when grandfather died, about all the people who did not believe in you. I am proud to be your son." Lily held her firstborn, her heart full to bursting. "I am proud of the man you are becoming." Sarah, at 15, announced one evening at dinner that she wanted to go to college in Denver to study business. The idea was almost unheard of, a woman going to college, but Lily looked at her bright, determined daughter and saw herself at that age. "If that is what you want, we will find a way to make it happen." Wade supported the decision without hesitation. "Our daughter has a brilliant mind. It would be a waste not to develop it." Thomas, at 12, declared he was going to be the best horse trainer in Colorado. He spent every spare moment in the barn or corral, working with the young horses, showing a natural talent that reminded Lily of Wade. The ranch continued to grow and change. They bought additional land from a neighbor who was retiring, expanding their grazing territory. They built a proper stable for the breeding horses and developed a reputation that brought buyers from across the West. The Double F became known as one of the finest ranches in Colorado, and nobody remembered anymore that people had once thought a woman could not run it. Lily and Wade aged gracefully into their 40s, still working the ranch but able to delegate more to George and the experienced hands they had kept on. They had built something lasting, something that would continue beyond them. One crisp autumn morning, 20 years after their wedding, Lily and Wade rode out to check on the cattle in the high pasture. It was the same route they had taken that first summer when Wade was just a new hand, and Lily was fighting to save her ranch. So much had changed since then, yet the land remained constant, the mountains still rising against the sky, the grass still gold in the autumn sun. They stopped at the same spot where Wade had first told her he loved her, where they had sat by a campfire under the stars and planned their future. Wade dismounted and helped Lily down, and they stood together looking out over the valley. "You ever regret it?" Lily asked. "Staying here, tying yourself to this place and to me?" Wade looked at her like she had grown a second head. "Regret? Lily, these 20 years with you have been the best of my life. I wake up every morning grateful that I took a chance and rode out here that day. I get to spend my life with the woman I love, working land that matters, raising children who make me proud. What could I possibly regret? I just want to make sure you are happy. I am more than happy, I am blessed." Wade pulled her close and Lily rested her head on his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. "You gave me everything I never knew I needed. A home, a family, a purpose. You made me believe I could be more than just a drifter moving from job to job." "You did the same for me," Lily said. When everyone else saw a woman who could not possibly succeed, you saw a capable partner. You believed in me when I was not sure I believed in myself." They stood holding each other as the sun warmed their backs and the cattle grazed peacefully below. After a while, they remounted and continued their rounds, working side by side the way they had for 2 decades, the partnership that had saved a ranch and built a legacy. That winter brought heavy snows that buried the valley under white. The ranch work shifted indoors, caring for animals in the barns, repairing equipment, planning for spring. The family spent long evenings around the fireplace, Wade telling stories about his childhood, Lily teaching Sarah the intricacies of managing ranch finances, George and Thomas playing chess or cards. These were the moments Lily treasured most. Not the dramatic victories or the hard-won successes, but the quiet evenings with her family safe and warm, the comfortable silence between her and Wade as they worked together in the barn, the sound of her children's laughter filling the house that had been so empty and silent after her father died. Spring arrived with its usual explosion of life and work. Sarah left for college in Denver, which was harder on Lily than she expected. Her daughter was brilliant and capable and ready for the world, but Lily still worried. Wade held her the night after they returned from delivering Sarah to her boarding house near the college. "She will be fine," he said. "She is strong like her mother. I know. I just wish I could protect her from everything. You cannot protect them forever. The best we can do is teach them well and trust they will make good choices. Sarah has a good head on her shoulders. She will do great things." Wade was right, as usual. Sarah thrived in college, writing long letters home about her classes and the exciting ideas she was learning. She came home for summers and holidays, full of energy and plans for how to improve the ranch's business operations. Lily listened to her daughter's suggestions with pride and implemented many of them, watching the ranch become even more efficient and profitable. George took on more responsibility, managing the day-to-day operations and giving Lily and Wade more time to focus on the bigger picture planning. He courted a young woman from town, Emma Richards, whose father owned the general store. They married when George was 21, and Emma proved to be a wonderful addition to the family, hardworking and kind, fitting into ranch life like she had been born to it. A year later, Emma gave birth to Lily's first grandchild, a baby girl they named Grace. Holding her granddaughter for the first time, Lily felt the circle of life complete itself. From her own mother who had died too young, to Lily herself fighting to save the ranch, to her children growing into capable adults, to this tiny new life representing the future of the Double F Ranch. "Your great-grandfather built this place," Lily whispered to baby Grace. "Your grandmother saved it. Your father works it, and someday, if you want it, it will be yours. But that is your choice to make. Whatever you decide to be, whoever you decide to become, you will always have a home here." Wade came up behind her and put his arms around both of them, his wife and his granddaughter. "She is beautiful. She is perfect," Lily agreed. Thomas continued his work with horses, developing training methods that were gentler than the traditional breaking techniques most cowboys used. He had a gift for understanding horses, for earning their trust rather than forcing their submission. By the time he was 16, people were bringing horses from all over the state for him to train. Sarah graduated from college with honors and returned to the ranch with a business degree, and a young man she wanted to marry. David Chen was the son of Chinese immigrants who had come to Colorado to work on the railroads and stayed to build a life. He was smart, hardworking, and clearly devoted to Sarah. Some people in town raised eyebrows at the match, but Lily and Wade welcomed David into the family without hesitation. "Love is what matters," Lily said firmly, when the pastor's wife made a comment about mixed marriages. If Sarah loves him and he treats her well, that is all I need to know. David and Sarah settled on a portion of the ranch land and built their own house, starting a horse breeding operation that complemented rather than competed with the main ranch business. They had 3 children in quick succession, filling the ranch with even more life and energy. As Lily and Wade entered their 50s, they gradually transitioned from active ranch management to advisory roles. George ran the main cattle operation, Sarah and David managed the horse breeding business, and Thomas had built a thriving horse training operation. The Double F had evolved from a single ranch into a family enterprise that employed dozens of people and generated wealth that supported not just the family but the entire Gunnison community. Lily looked at what they had built and felt deep satisfaction. She thought about that terrified young woman standing on the porch 25 years ago, watching the banker leave, convinced she was going to lose everything. She wished she could go back and tell that woman that everything was going to be all right, that she would not just save the ranch but build something far beyond what her father had imagined. But then she realized she did not need to go back. She was that woman, just older and wiser and proven right. She had done it. She had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations, including her own. On their 30th wedding anniversary, the entire family gathered for a huge celebration. 3 generations of Olsons and their extended family filled the ranch house and spilled out into the yard. There was music and dancing, food and laughter, storytelling and joy. Neighbors and friends came from all over the valley to celebrate. At sunset, Wade took Lily's hand and led her away from the party, back to the porch where they had shared so many quiet evenings over the years. The sound of celebration continued behind them, but for this moment, they were alone. 30 years, Wade said, shaking his head in wonder. Seems like yesterday and a lifetime ago all at once. I know what you mean, Lily replied. She looked at her husband, seeing the gray in his hair and the lines around his eyes, but still seeing the young cowboy who had ridden up to her barn looking for work and found so much more. Best 30 years of my life. Mine too. Wade pulled her close and kissed her with the same passion and tenderness he had shown on their wedding night. I would do it all again in a heartbeat. Even the hard parts, especially the hard parts, they made the good parts better. They stood together watching the sunset paint the Colorado sky, their children and grandchildren celebrating behind them, the ranch they had built stretching out before them. Everything they had fought for, everything they had created, everything they had loved was gathered here in this place. We did good, Lily said quietly. We did great, Wade corrected. You did great. You proved everyone wrong and built something that will last for generations. We built it together, Lily insisted. I could not have done any of this without you. You were my partner and my believer when I needed both desperately. Wade kissed her forehead. And you were my home when I was lost. Seems like we saved each other. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, and the celebration continued behind them, Lily reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From desperation and doubt to success and love, from fighting just to survive to building a legacy that would outlast them both, from loneliness to being surrounded by family and love. No regrets, Wade asked, echoing her question from years ago. Not a single one, Lily said with absolute certainty. Everything was exactly as it should be. They walked back to join their family, ready to celebrate 30 years of marriage and partnership and love. Ready to embrace whatever the future held, knowing that as long as they had each other, they could face anything. The party continued late into the night, with music and dancing and stories shared around the fire. Lily sat with her grandchildren gathered around her, telling them about the early days, about the struggles and the victories, about how their grandfather had arrived at just the right moment and changed everything. "Were you scared, Grandma?" Little Grace asked, now 8 years old and fascinated by family history. "Terrified," Lily admitted. "But being scared did not mean I had to give up. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is keep going even when you are afraid." "Is that why you are the best grandma in the world?" Grace's younger brother asked. Lily laughed and hugged him. "I am the best grandma because I have the best grandchildren." Wade watched his wife surrounded by their family, her face alight with joy and love, and felt his heart swell with emotion. This was everything he had ever wanted and more than he had dared to dream possible. A woman who challenged him and loved him, children who made him proud, grandchildren who gave him hope for the future, and a legacy built on hard work and determination and love. As the celebration finally wound down and people began heading home or to their beds, Lily and Wade climbed the stairs to their bedroom, the same room where they had spent their wedding night 30 years ago. The house was quiet now except for the settling sounds of old wood and the distant call of an owl. Wade helped Lily out of her party dress the way he had helped her out of her wedding dress 3 decades ago, and they lay together in the bed they had shared for so long, holding each other close. "Happy anniversary, my love," Wade whispered. "Happy anniversary," Lily replied. She kissed him softly. "Here is to 30 more." "I will take whatever time we are given," Wade said, "as long as I have you." They fell asleep wrapped around each other, content and complete, the way they had been since that first night when they admitted their love under the stars. Outside their window, the ranch slept peacefully. The cattle and horses settled, the buildings solid and secure, the legacy they had built together standing strong against the mountains and the sky. And on the sign above the main entrance, weathered but still proud, the words remained: "Double F Ranch Lily Olson, proprietor Wade Olson, foreman." A testament to partnership, to belief, to love that had transformed 2 lives and built something that would last for generations to come. The years continued their steady march, bringing changes and challenges, but always within the framework of love and family that Lily and Wade had built. They watched their grandchildren grow, teaching them about the ranch, about hard work, about the values that had guided their lives. They sat on the porch in the evenings, holding hands and watching the sunsets, still finding new things to talk about after decades together. When Lily turned 60, Wade threw her a surprise party that brought people from all over Colorado. Former ranch hands who had worked for them decades ago, business partners, neighbors who had watched the Double F grow from a struggling operation to a thriving enterprise. The mayor of Gunnison gave a speech about how Lily had been an inspiration to women throughout the state, proving that determination and skill mattered more than gender. Lily listened to the speeches, and the praise with some embarrassment, but also with pride. She had done something important, not just building a successful ranch, but showing what was possible. Young women throughout Colorado pointed to her as proof that they could pursue unconventional paths, that they could run businesses and manage property and succeed on their own terms. But what mattered most to Lily was the family gathered around her. Wade, still handsome despite the gray hair and the lines that came with outdoor work and hard living. George and Emma with their 4 children, the oldest now preparing to go to college. Sarah and David with their busy household and their own thriving business. Thomas and his new wife Clara, just married and full of plans for the future. This was the legacy that mattered. Not just the land or the cattle or the business success, but the people, the relationships, the love that had grown and multiplied over the years. "You know what I am most grateful for?" Lily said to Wade that night after everyone had gone home. "What is that? That I did not give up." That day the banker came and told me I had 30 days to prove myself. I wanted to give up so badly. I was exhausted and grieving and scared. But I kept going. And because I kept going, I found you. We built this life together. If I had given up, I would have missed all of it. Wade pulled her close. "The world would have been much poorer if you had given up. I would have been poorer. I would have drifted from ranch to ranch, never finding the home I was looking for, never knowing what love really meant." "We found each other just when we needed to," Lily said. "No," Wade corrected gently. "You were already strong. You were already capable. You did not need me to save you, but you let me stand beside you, and that made all the difference. You gave me purpose and home and love. I am the one who needed saving." "Maybe we saved each other," Lily suggested. "Maybe we did," Wade agreed. As they sat together in the gathering darkness, Lily thought about the arc of her life. From a young girl working alongside her father, to a frightened woman trying to save her inheritance, to a wife and mother and grandmother presiding over a ranching empire. She had been underestimated, dismissed, and doubted. But she had also been loved, supported, and believed in. The ranch that no one thought she could run had become one of the most successful in Colorado. The woman everyone thought would fail had succeeded beyond measure. And the love story that had started with a cowboy looking for work and a desperate woman trying to save her home had blossomed into a partnership that sustained them both for decades. "I love you, Wade Olson," Lily said, the words as true and powerful as the first time she had spoken them. "I love you, Lily Olson," Wade replied. "Today, tomorrow, and always." They sat together as the stars came out, the same stars that had witnessed their first confession of love all those years ago. The ranch was quiet around them, settled and peaceful. Their family was safe and thriving. Their legacy was secure. And they had each other, which had always been the most important thing. Inside the house, the grandfather clock that had belonged to Lily's parents chimed the hour. In the bunkhouse, the ranch hands settled in for the night. In the barns, the horses and cattle rested. And on the porch of the main house, a woman and a man who had built a life together sat holding hands, grateful for every moment, every challenge, every triumph they had shared. The Double F Ranch stood strong under the Colorado sky, a testament to determination, partnership, and love. And as Lily and Wade finally rose to go inside, ready to sleep in each other's arms one more night, they knew with absolute certainty that they had lived well, loved deeply, and built something that would endure long after they were gone. The story that had started with doubt and fear had become one of triumph and love. The woman no one believed in had proved them all wrong. And the cowboy who became her partner and believer had found the home he had always been searching for. Together, they had made the impossible real. Together, they had built a legacy of love. Together, they had lived a life worth living, and that was the greatest success of all.